The First Empire believed it was a malfunction. Across the luminous corridors of the Zifri Dominion, holographic panels flickered without command. Officers paused mid-conversation as symbols crawled across their displays, symbols no known translator could immediately process. The message bypassed encryption, firewalls, and even isolated military networks that had never been connected to the wider galactic web. Within seconds, the transmission appeared everywhere. Civilian comm screens glowed with unfamiliar characters. Military command tables pulsed red. Navigation systems froze, refusing new coordinates. Even deep space probes, lost centuries ago, reactivated to display the same sequence of signals. Then the translation algorithms caught up. 4 simple words emerged from the chaos. Final warning issued. Withdraw. The phrasing was unmistakably human. Across the galaxy, reactions came fast and fearful. On the crystalline orbital rings of the Velthari Combine, diplomats abruptly halted trade negotiations when the message replaced their meeting projections. On the desert world of Koreth, warrior priests declared the words an omen of extinction. In the floating cities of the Mir Collective, millions watched as every personal device synchronized to display the same uninvited declaration. The message was not transmitted through known hyperspace bands. It did not travel through relay gates. It simply appeared. Simultaneously. Everywhere. For the first time in recorded galactic history, communication technology itself seemed bypassed. The Galactic Council convened within minutes. Thousands of representatives materialized as shimmering projections inside the central chamber of the Citadel of Union. The Council chamber had witnessed the end of ancient wars, the birth of stellar alliances, and even the collapse of entire civilizations. Yet never had the chamber felt so tense. "Explain how this transmission breached restricted systems," demanded Chancellor Rauveck, his multifaceted eyes reflecting layers of incoming data streams. "No known communication vector was used," replied the Council's chief technologist, her voice trembling. The signal appeared embedded directly into quantum substrate layers. Silence spread across the assembly. That was impossible. Quantum substrate layers were not channels. They were the foundation upon which reality itself carried information. To inject a message there would require technology beyond even the oldest species' theoretical limits. One delegate leaned forward, his elongated limbs coiling uneasily. "The origin?" he asked. Another pause. Then the answer appeared on the central display. "Soel, the human home system." Murmurs erupted instantly. Humanity. The species that had arrived quietly centuries ago. The species that rarely attended council assemblies. The species that maintained diplomatic ties yet never fully integrated into galactic culture. The species that, despite modest territory, possessed strangely advanced defensive capabilities. "Humans do not issue threats," said Ambassador Threx, his voice sharp with disbelief. "They negotiate. They trade. They avoid escalation." "They avoid escalation," another voice corrected carefully, "until they do not." Historical records flickered into view. 2 centuries earlier, a minor border skirmish between human explorers and a coalition patrol had resulted in the unexplained disappearance of 17 warships. No debris, no energy signatures, no survivors. Only empty coordinates where fleets had once existed. The incident had been classified as an anomaly. It had never been investigated further. Now it felt less like an anomaly and more like a precedent. The transmission repeated. Final warning issued. Withdraw. Still no context. No demands. No negotiation terms. Only a command. Council analysts scrambled to map recent galactic conflicts, searching for possible provocations. Several expansionist empires had increased activity near outer human territories in recent cycles. Mining colonies had pushed closer to restricted zones around Sol. Surveillance drones had vanished along human borders, often blamed on pirates or navigational hazards. A pattern slowly emerged. Human territory had been probed repeatedly, tested, encroached upon. "Perhaps this is psychological warfare," suggested one delegate hopefully. "A calculated bluff." But deep within the Council's data vaults, ancient records began unlocking automatically, as if triggered by the message itself. Encrypted files, sealed by forgotten authorization codes, opened for the first time in centuries. Each contained fragments of classified encounters with humanity. Each ended the same way. Silence. Lost fleets. Unexplained retreats. One final report drew particular attention. It was incomplete. Only one line remained uncorrupted. "Do not force them to demonstrate." The chamber lights dimmed as energy grids diverted processing power to translation systems, still attempting to decode hidden layers within the transmission. Then a second line appeared beneath the original message. "Not newly transmitted. Previously concealed. Now revealed. This is the only warning." And across thousands of star systems, for the first time in centuries, the galaxy hesitated. The archives were never meant to be opened again. Deep beneath the citadel of Union, far below the luminous council chambers, rested vaults older than many civilizations currently seated in the Galactic Council. These records were not merely classified, they were intentionally forgotten. Entire administrations had passed without even knowing they existed. Yet now, the seals were breaking. Triggered automatically by the human transmission, ancient encryption layers dissolved like frost under rising sunlight. Files marked with extinct security protocols began populating restricted displays across the Council network. Historians and analysts stared in stunned silence. The oldest file dated back 214 standard cycles. A coalition reconnaissance fleet had entered the Perseus Reach, a region now recognized as part of humanity's outer defensive perimeter. At the time, the area had been labeled unclaimed space. Long-range scans had detected only sparse asteroid clusters and minor radiation distortions. Routine exploration. Standard expansion procedure. The fleet never returned. At first, it was assumed they had encountered an uncharted stellar hazard, perhaps a gravitational collapse, or a previously undocumented dark matter current. The Coalition sent a second fleet, equipped with reinforced sensors and autonomous scouts. They found nothing. No debris. No radiation signatures. No distress signals. No indication that 17 heavily shielded warships had ever existed. Then the report ended abruptly. No explanation. No conclusion. Only a notation added decades later. Human diplomatic presence increased in adjacent sectors shortly after incident. Another file opened. 1 century later. A trade alliance between 3 minor empires collapsed overnight after their shared shipyards near the Cygnus corridor were discovered empty. Entire construction platforms, vast megastructures kilometers wide, had simply vanished. Surveillance footage showed no attack. No weapon signatures. No boarding craft. No distortion effects. Just empty space where industrial complexes had once thrived. Within months, humans established a listening outpost precisely at the corridor's edge. The connection had been dismissed as coincidence. Now, coincidence was no longer comforting. More files surfaced. colonization missions that quietly altered course after receiving private communications from human envoys, exploration guilds that withdrew funding for expeditions approaching Sol-adjacent regions, mercenary fleets that accepted contracts to patrol near human territory, and later refused to discuss what they had encountered. Each incident alone seemed insignificant. Together, they formed a pattern. Humanity did not expand aggressively. They did not announce military developments. They did not display overwhelming force. Instead, they allowed curiosity to approach them, and then removed the curiosity, cleanly, quietly, without spectacle. Council Intelligence Director Salketh felt a chill ripple along his neural spines as another record completed reconstruction. This one was different. It included survivor testimony. A single vessel had escaped an encounter near the boundary of human space nearly 70 cycles ago. Its captain's personal log had been sealed by unanimous council order. The recording played. The voice that emerged was fragmented, distorted by stress-induced neural feedback. "We detected nothing," the captain said, breath uneven. "No fleet signatures. No weapon locks. No energy spikes." A pause filled with static. Then the stars disappeared. Several council members leaned forward involuntarily. "They didn't explode," the voice continued shakily. "They dimmed, as if something passed between us and reality itself." Another long silence. "Our instruments recorded negative energy displacement values." That was impossible. Negative displacement readings implied spatial removal, not destruction. Ships ahead of us simply ceased existing. No debris field. No radiation bloom. No mass trace. Just absence. The recording degraded further. We never saw their ships. We never saw their weapons. We only saw the aftermath of whatever they chose not to show us. The log ended with one final statement. "They warned us first." The council chamber remained silent long after the recording stopped. Across the galaxy, encrypted human diplomatic channels had always been considered polite but reserved. Humans traded knowledge, cultural media, and occasionally advanced medical technologies. But they rarely discussed military doctrine. They rarely displayed strategic capabilities. And they never explained why their borders remained perfectly stable for centuries. Now the answer seemed obvious. Stability had never been maintained through negotiation alone. A junior analyst broke the silence. "These incidents were suppressed to prevent panic," she said quietly. Previous councils agreed that public awareness of unexplained human capabilities would destabilize interstellar politics. "Meaning," Chancellor Ralvek said slowly, "we ignored a warning that was already given." The transmission pulsed again across every active display in the chamber. Final warning issued. Withdraw. New data began appearing beneath the text. Coordinates. Dozens of them. Each marked along contested expansion routes approaching human territory. Each corresponding to recent fleet movements. Each positioned exactly at the edge of regions historically associated with disappearances. Humanity had mapped the line clearly, and now the galaxy understood what happened when that line was crossed. For centuries, humanity had allowed curiosity to test them. Now, they were no longer inviting the test. The coordinates were undeniable. Dozens of markers glowed across the Galactic Council's strategic map, each one resting precisely along the invisible perimeter of human-controlled space. For centuries, that boundary had existed only as a suggestion, an implied border recognized through tradition rather than treaty. Humanity had never formally declared the limits of its territory. They had never needed to. The disappearances had been enough. Now, for the first time, the line was visible to everyone. A perfect sphere of coordinates surrounding the Sol system and its neighboring sectors pulsed in quiet warning. No fleets patrolled those edges. No defense platforms could be detected. No minefields appeared on scans. Just empty space. Yet no one in the chamber doubted the implication. Ambassador Threx shifted uneasily, his elongated frame coiling tighter with every passing second. "This is intimidation," he said, though the confidence in his voice had faded. "They are attempting to halt lawful expansion through fear." "Lawful expansion does not typically result in vanished armadas," Director Salketh replied. Murmurs spread through the council. Several expansionist empires had quietly advanced into sectors long considered economically valuable due to dense asteroid clusters rich in exotic elements. These regions had remained untouched largely because early exploration attempts had ended inconclusively. Now those same sectors appeared highlighted in human coordinates. Every recent incursion had been noticed. Every movement tracked. Humanity had not protested publicly. They had not issued diplomatic complaints. They had simply watched. Until now. Far from the citadel, deep within contested territory, the first confirmation arrived. A Velthari reconnaissance drone entered coordinate marker 17, a remote sector previously designated as neutral. The drone transmitted normally for the first 12 seconds. Telemetry stable. Sensors active. No anomalies detected. Then the feed froze. When the signal resumed, the drone was no longer in motion. Stars visible through its forward lens had shifted position in ways no navigational system could explain. Constellations appeared distorted, stretched slightly as if space itself had been subtly folded. Instrument readings displayed impossible values. Negative distance markers. Temporal drift discrepancies. Localized gravitational constants fluctuating beyond theoretical tolerances. Then the drone's recording ended mid-transmission. No explosion. No interference spike. Simply silence. Within minutes, similar reports arrived from 3 separate exploration guilds. Scout vessels approaching the marked coordinates experienced identical distortions. Navigation systems recalibrated continuously, attempting to compensate for positional readings that seemed to rewrite themselves faster than sensors could process. One captain described it simply. "We are not being pushed back. We are being refused." The phrase spread rapidly through intelligence networks. Refused. Not attacked. Not destroyed. Denied. As though the region itself rejected entry. Back in the council chamber, tension escalated into argument. "This is territorial aggression," declared General Vark of the Hesh Dominion. "No species has the authority to restrict open space. No species," countered Chancellor Ralvek carefully, "has ever demonstrated the ability to enforce such restriction without visible force." Another transmission arrived. Short. Unadorned. "Respect the boundary." Nothing more. No threats. No declarations of war. Only a statement of fact. Within hours, long-range scans detected unusual energy fluctuations beneath the surfaces of several uninhabited moons positioned just inside the human perimeter. At first, analysts believed them to be natural geothermal signatures. Then the readings synchronized. Perfectly. Across multiple systems. The probability of natural alignment approached 0. Something beneath those moons was active. Awakening. Ancient monitoring satellites, some predating humanity's first recorded warp experiments, began transmitting archived imagery previously dismissed as corrupted data. Grainy visuals showed faint geometric patterns beneath planetary crust layers. Massive symmetrical structures buried kilometers deep. Dormant installations hidden in plain sight for centuries. The oldest timestamp dated back over 400 cycles. Human engineering signatures matched modern scans, meaning those structures had existed long before humanity officially possessed the capability to build them. The implication unsettled even the oldest council members. Humanity had not recently fortified their borders. They had revealed defenses that had always been there, prepared long before any neighboring empire had achieved faster-than-light travel. "They expected this," whispered one analyst. "They prepared for this," corrected another. Far beyond the council's reach, hidden installations continued powering on. Silent, invisible, waiting. The boundary remained unguarded by visible fleets. Yet no vessel that crossed it maintained stable telemetry for longer than a few seconds. The galaxy had long believed humans were cautious participants in interstellar politics. Now it became clear they had simply been patient. Patient enough to allow others to approach the line. Patient enough to allow curiosity to test its limits. But patience, the Council now realized, was not the same as weakness. The final update arrived as a faint addition beneath the original transmission. Coordinates expanded slightly outward. The line had moved. Not inward. Outward. Humanity was not retreating. They were giving space for retreat. One last opportunity. One last chance to choose wisely before patience ended. The first moon cracked without sound. Long-range observatories across 3 neighboring systems recorded the same impossible sight. The barren satellite, designated Kepri 9, long believed geologically inactive, developed a fracture stretching thousands of kilometers across its pale surface. No seismic precursor. No gravitational disturbance. No thermal bloom. Just a perfect line spreading across the crust as if drawn by an unseen hand. Then the moon opened. Not explosively, but precisely. Layers of regolith separated like mechanical petals, revealing darkness beneath. Darkness too uniform to be natural. Sensor arrays struggled to penetrate the void inside, reporting material compositions that did not correspond to known alloys or crystalline structures. Within minutes, the darkness began emitting structured energy pulses. Mathematical, ordered, deliberate. The pulses synchronized instantly with similar signals emerging from 12 additional moons positioned along humanity's outer perimeter. Each moon opened identically. Each revealed vast interior chambers filled with colossal geometric frameworks. Each structure had remained hidden for centuries beneath ordinary planetary crust, and each was now waking. The Galactic Council received visual confirmation from independent exploration guilds whose long-range probes observed the unfolding phenomenon. Massive rings, kilometers thick, rotated slowly within the exposed lunar cavities. Lattices of interlocking plates shifted with mechanical precision, unfolding like dormant machines stretching after centuries of stillness. No external fleet had been detected. No shipyards had reported large-scale construction. Yet these structures were unmistakably military. Strategic positioning indicated overlapping fields of control spanning multiple hyperspace approach vectors. Every major route toward Sol intersected with at least 3 of the newly revealed installations. Humanity had not constructed a defensive line. They had constructed an invisible web, a web that had remained concealed until the exact moment it was needed. Energy readings escalated rapidly. Power levels exceeded those of known stellar reactors, yet produced no detectable waste heat. The installations drew energy from unknown sources, converting it into stable output fields that bent local spacetime metrics. Navigation buoys within affected sectors began drifting slightly off predicted trajectories, pulled subtly toward gravitational gradients that had not existed hours earlier. "The installations are altering spacetime topology," reported Council physicist Draylen, his voice barely concealing awe. "They are not projecting force. They are modifying the environment itself." Across multiple systems, hyperspace travel became erratic near the human perimeter. Jump calculations produced conflicting exit coordinates. Transit corridors destabilized. Autonomous cargo vessels attempting routine jumps aborted mid-transition, returning to origin points with corrupted navigational memory. Human space was becoming inaccessible, not through blockade, through redesign. Ancient archival satellites began transmitting imagery previously flagged as corrupted sensor noise. Analysts now recognized those distortions as faint precursors to the newly active installations. Subtle gravitational lensing patterns had been present for centuries. Ignored, dismissed, misinterpreted as natural anomalies. Humanity had ceded their defensive infrastructure long before most current civilizations had discovered subspace theory, which raised a disturbing question. How long had humanity known this day might come? In the council chamber, fear began replacing skepticism. They prepared for invasion scenarios long before any empire considered them a rival, whispered Ambassador Threx. Or, Chancellor Ralvek replied quietly, long before any empire considered themselves the first to test them. Another report arrived from the outer Velthary frontier. A scout vessel attempting to bypass the coordinate boundary recorded a visual anomaly moments before its feed ended. Observers replayed the footage repeatedly. Stars ahead of the vessel appeared to tilt. Not shift position. Tilt. As if space were a surface being gently rotated. The vessel's final transmission captured the pilot's stunned whisper. "We are not approaching a fleet." A pause filled with rising static distortion. The region itself is becoming the defense. Within the newly opened lunar structures, enormous shapes began separating from internal docking frameworks. Not ships. Not stations. Something in between. Modular constructs assembled themselves piece by piece, each component drifting into alignment without visible propulsion systems. Their surfaces absorbed light rather than reflecting it, rendering their true dimensions difficult to determine. Analysts estimated lengths exceeding 50 kilometers. Yet still no weapons signatures appeared. No targeting arrays. No emission spikes. Only the steady reshaping of the space surrounding them. Humanity was not deploying an armada. They were deploying architecture. An architecture designed to make invasion irrelevant. One final update appeared beneath the persistent transmission that continued echoing across every communication channel in the galaxy. Boundary integrity initializing. Then a second line followed. Do not force demonstration. For centuries, the galaxy had mistaken humanity's quiet nature for reluctance. Now it understood the truth. Humans had never been avoiding war. They had been ensuring they would never need to fight one. The Hesh Dominion did not believe in retreat. For generations, their expansion doctrine had remained unchanged. No territory remained unclaimed if strength could seize it. Their fleets had broken empires older than recorded history. Their war academies taught that hesitation was the first step toward extinction. And now, faced with a silent boundary drawn by humanity, hesitation felt like surrender. Supreme Commander Vark stood before the assembled high strategists, his armored form illuminated by shifting tactical projections. "They show no weapons," he declared. No fleets. No war declarations. Only distortions meant to frighten lesser species. A strategist hesitated. Respectfully, Commander. Multiple civilizations have already withdrawn their fleets from the marked coordinates. Then they are cowards, Vark replied coldly. The chamber fell silent. Vark turned toward the projection of human space. The perimeter glowed faintly where the newly revealed installations had begun altering space-time geometry. Navigational routes bent around the boundary as if guided by unseen currents. To Vark, the phenomenon appeared less like defense and more like a challenge. They issue a warning, he said. A warning without demonstration is merely suggestion. Within hours, the Dominion's 7th Armada received its orders. 112 warships adjusted trajectory toward coordinate marker 03. Observers across the galaxy watched in tense silence. The Armada approached cautiously at first, long-range sensors scanning for energy spikes or hidden weapons platforms. Every reading remained stable, though localized space-time curvature readings increased steadily as the fleet neared the boundary. Communication officers attempted to transmit standard diplomatic identification codes. No response. No interference. No acknowledgement. Just the quiet persistence of the human message displayed across every console. Final warning issued. Withdraw. Commander Vark authorized continued advance. The first vessel crossed the boundary marker. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then the stars ahead dimmed. Not vanished. Not exploded. Dimmed, as if viewed through a lens that slightly misaligned reality itself. Navigation systems recalculated constantly, reporting position discrepancies that shifted faster than course corrections could compensate. The second vessel crossed the line. Its hull sensors detected no external contact, no radiation increase, no kinetic impact. Yet internal inertial readings fluctuated wildly, as if the ship existed in two slightly different locations simultaneously. The third vessel entered the distorted region. Its mass readings began returning fractional values. Impossible numbers. Negative decimal shifts in matter density. Crew members reported visual artifacts, hallways appearing slightly longer than architectural schematics allowed, light sources illuminating angles inconsistent with their placement. Then the Armada's formation began to fragment. Not through damage. Through separation. Ships attempting to maintain relative position discovered that distance between vessels no longer obeyed conventional measurement. One cruiser reported being simultaneously 300 meters and 3 kilometers from its nearest escort, depending on sensor interpretation. Temporal drift alarms activated across multiple vessels. Milliseconds stretched unpredictably. Command synchronization faltered. Weapons systems refused target locks because targeting solutions could not resolve consistent spatial coordinates. Then the demonstration began. Observers later struggled to describe what happened next. No beam fired. No explosion registered. No destructive force was observed. Instead, a region of space approximately 50 kilometers across adjusted. Subtly, elegantly, like fabric being smoothed. 3 Dominion vessels simply ceased occupying the same physical constants as the rest of the universe. They did not break apart. They did not burn. They did not even appear to move. They just stopped being measurable, gone, without violence, without spectacle, without effort. Panic spread through the remaining fleet. Retreat commands echoed instantly across the tactical network. But retreat calculations failed repeatedly as navigation systems struggled to determine which direction represented a way. Then the distortion receded slightly. Not completely. Just enough. Enough to allow escape. Enough to deliver the message. The surviving vessels stumbled backward across the boundary, their crews shaken by the realization that they had not survived through superior tactics or defensive capability. They had survived because they had been allowed to. Within minutes, updated telemetry reached the Galactic Council. 3 vessels missing. No debris. No energy discharge. No trace. Only absence. Then the human transmission changed for the first time. The words expanded into a final statement. Demonstration complete. A pause followed. Then one final line appeared beneath it. We prefer peace. Across the galaxy, fleets altered course. Expansion routes redirected away from human space. Exploration charters were quietly amended to exclude the marked perimeter. For the first time in centuries, no species questioned the boundary surrounding Sol, not because humanity demanded obedience, but because they had demonstrated something far more persuasive than conquest, restraint backed by certainty. The galaxy had been given a warning. It had chosen to test that warning, and now, no one wished to hear what message humanity might send next.